The story begins in the unlikeliest of places, the sun-soaked streets of Santa Barbara, where luxury hides secrets, and every corner holds a whisper. Imagine the golden glow of sunset reflecting off pristine hotel windows, the kind of place where the world's elite come to escape, to scheme, and to mingle behind closed doors. It was here, in a hotel that rarely sees an ordinary face, that a meeting took place, one that would eventually find its way into the most improbable of hands, Liam Neeson's. But why would a Hollywood icon like Neeson, known for his stoic intensity on screen, find himself tangled in a story about Meghan Markle? And why does the world need to hear it now? But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. The question itself is enough to stop you in your tracks. Picture this. Meghan Markle, a name that once commanded headlines for royal drama, charity work, and Hollywood fame, reportedly stepping into a luxury Santa Barbara hotel to meet someone whose very name carries whispers of influence and power. The man in question is no stranger to intrigue, nor is he just another figure in the kaleidoscope of celebrity culture. He is the owner of the Fitzpatrick, a hotel whose reputation has always been as exclusive as it is enigmatic. But what happened inside that gilded sanctuary? And why does Liam Neeson, of all people, become the vessel for this revelation? Before we dive deeper, let's set the stakes. This isn't a tale of mere celebrity gossip. No, this story sits at the intersection of fame, influence, and secrecy, a place where reputations can be built or destroyed in a single evening. The world watches every move Meghan makes, scrutinizes every encounter, and speculates endlessly about her intentions. But in this instance, the meeting in Santa Barbara wasn't meant for the public eye. And yet, somehow, the details found their way into the spotlight. You might be asking yourself, what could possibly happen in a luxury hotel that is worthy of Liam Neeson's attention? The answer is simple yet shocking: everything. The room was small, the lights dim, the atmosphere charged with unspoken tension. And at the center of it all was Meghan, whose choices have always sparked fascination, admiration, and criticism in equal measure. But this night, the narrative shifted. There was an energy in the air, something more than casual conversation or social pleasantries. Something calculated. Something that would, if revealed, ignite debates, scandalize the media, and leave even the most seasoned gossip columnists scrambling for details. But let's rewind slightly and consider Liam Neeson's position. Known globally as an actor who thrives in roles of intensity and gravitas, he has seen the spectrum of human behavior in the rawest forms on screen. What he witnessed in Santa Barbara wasn't fiction. It was a real-life narrative unfolding in the shadows. A moment that, according to sources, left him both astonished and conflicted. His decision to share the account was not just about the details of the meeting, but about the implications: personal, social, and cultural. It's one thing to hear about Meghan Markle in tabloids. It's another to have someone of Neeson's credibility recount the story with the intimacy of an eyewitness. Now, pause for a moment and consider the layers of this unfolding drama. First, the setting. Santa Barbara is no ordinary city. Nestled along the California coast, it is a playground for those who operate at the upper echelons of wealth and influence. The hotels here are not just accommodations. They are stages for clandestine meetings, power plays, and sometimes dangerous liaisons. Within this context, the Fitzpatrick stands out. Its owner, enigmatic and notoriously private, is rumored to have connections that stretch far beyond hospitality. To meet him, there is to enter a world few ever glimpse, and even fewer leave unchanged. And then there's Meghan herself. Her public persona is a tapestry of ambition, grace, and controversy. From her early days as an actress navigating Hollywood's complex landscape, to her tenure as a duchess under the intense scrutiny of the British monarchy, she has mastered the art of managing public perception. But can mastery over public image shield one from the private intrigues that swirl behind closed doors? According to what Liam Neeson shared, the answer is complicated. There were hints, subtle and telling, of negotiations, gestures, and interactions that suggested motives beyond casual acquaintance. And there were rumors, persistent, tantalizing, and incendiary, that this meeting was more than just a social call. Imagine for a moment the scene inside the hotel. The hallway carpet muffled footsteps. The chandeliers cast soft shadows on polished floors. Meghan entered, composed yet cautious, aware that every glance, every word, might carry weight. Across the room, the Fitzpatrick owner awaited, a man whose life is a study in discretion and influence. The two exchanged greetings, polite yet charged, as if both understood the unspoken game unfolding. Neeson, observing from a vantage point just beyond the room, took note of every nuance. The way Meghan's hand lingered on the velvet chair, the subtle tilt of her head, the barely audible exchange of words that hinted at strategy and intent. It was in these small, almost imperceptible moments that the story began to take shape. Observers would later debate. Was this a meeting of mutual curiosity, a calculated pursuit of opportunity, or something else entirely? Liam Neeson's account suggests all three, layered in a complexity that only someone with his attention to detail could convey. He recounted the tension, the strategic silences, and the subtle interplay of influence that transformed what might have seemed like a simple encounter into a narrative loaded with consequence. Now, before we move further, consider this question. What compels someone like Meghan Markle, with access to global platforms and immense influence, to engage in meetings that invite speculation about sugar baby arrangements, private dealings, and alliances with powerful figures? Is it ambition, necessity, desire, or something darker still? Neeson's recounting hints that this was not a simple story of celebrity encounters, but a calculated decision, one that intersects with power dynamics, personal aspirations, and perhaps even survival in the labyrinthine world of elite social circles. But here's where the intrigue deepens. The whispers that emerged after the Santa Barbara encounter were immediate and relentless. Rumors began circulating about Meghan's alleged intentions, her relationship with the hotel owner, and the possibility of arrangements that crossed boundaries of conventional propriety. Some called it scandal, others strategy. The media frenzy that followed was only partially informed. Much of the most shocking detail had been held close by those who witnessed the events firsthand. Liam Neeson, acting as an unintentional conduit, became the source that turned speculation into tangible narrative. And yet, even with his account, questions remain. How much of what happened that evening can truly be verified? Which moments were observed directly, and which were inferred from subtle cues? Neeson's version gives us a rare lens into a world where observation is everything, where context matters more than statements, and where every interaction is loaded with potential meaning. For viewers, it is a reminder. The stories that reach the public eye are only fragments of the larger truth. As we prepare to delve deeper into this tangled web, it is worth noting the stakes. The implications of this meeting are not confined to gossip columns or social media speculation. They touch upon the reputation of Meghan Markle, the credibility of those involved, and the intricate, often opaque networks of influence that define elite social interactions. The narrative is layered with intrigue, emotional tension, and the kind of human drama that rivals any scripted performance. So, as we begin this journey, keep a question in mind. What truly motivates actions taken behind closed doors when the world is watching from afar? The answer is elusive, tangled with perception, ambition, and the relentless gaze of public scrutiny. And as we unfold the story, moment by moment, revelation by revelation, it becomes clear that nothing is as simple as it seems. Every glance, every word, every gesture carries weight. Every secret has the potential to reshape perception. And as Liam Neeson's account unfolds, we begin to see not just a story of a meeting, but a portrait of power, desire, and the lengths to which people will go to pursue their aims. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Why would Liam Neeson, an actor known for stoic intensity and relentless action roles, be the one dropping details about Meghan Markle's alleged Santa Barbara rendezvous? It's not the question most would expect, and yet it's the doorway into a story that is anything but ordinary. Liam Neeson has spent decades portraying men who confront danger, navigate moral gray zones, and unearth hidden truths. But now, in real life, he found himself at the center of a drama that felt straight out of one of his films. Except this wasn't fiction. This was Hollywood, royalty, and power, colliding in a hotel that few outsiders ever enter. let's rewind a bit to understand why Liam's perspective matters. Liam Neeson isn't just a celebrity, he's a conduit of credibility. Over the years, his reputation has been built not only on his skill, but on his consistency, his integrity, and his uncanny ability to read people. Audiences know him as the man who could bring gravitas to a simple glance, a subtle nod, or a quiet warning. And it's precisely that skill, the skill of observation, that makes his account of Meghan Markle's Santa Barbara encounter so compelling. It all began at a private dinner, arranged under the guise of industry networking. The event was exclusive, the kind that usually requires invitations vetted months in advance. It was intimate but calculated, a room full of people who wield influence, who trade favors as effortlessly as they sip their cocktails. Neeson, though not the primary target of discussion, found himself in the right place at the right time, or perhaps in the wrong place, depending on perspective. His presence would later prove critical, because he saw things that others could not, or perhaps chose not to. The story, as Neeson recounts it, starts with a moment so unassuming that no one could have guessed its significance. Meghan Markle arrived not with fanfare, but with quiet composure, her demeanor measured, her movements deliberate. There was a subtle confidence in her posture, a careful calibration between approachability and mystery. Liam noticed immediately the way she interacted. Not as a star used to applause, but as someone acutely aware of the stakes in every conversation. There were smiles, nods, brief exchanges, but behind them, a layer of strategy. And then there was the Fitzpatrick owner, a man whose reputation is as carefully guarded as the hotel he runs. Neeson describes him as poised, measured, someone whose gestures are calculated and whose presence commands subtle authority. Together, Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner were a study in contrasts. Charm versus caution, celebrity versus discretion, ambition versus control. Observing their interaction, Neeson realized this wasn't casual small talk. It was an encounter designed to probe, to gauge, and possibly to negotiate. Now, let's pause to consider the significance of Neeson witnessing this. Why does it matter that he saw it firsthand? Unlike the gossip circulating online or the speculative articles in tabloids, Liam Neeson's insight carries weight because it's anchored in observation and instinct. He isn't relying on hearsay. He is recounting nuances, the subtle shifts in body language, the timing of glances, the silent pauses between words that carry meaning far beyond what is spoken. To Neeson, these details are evidence. Evidence of intent, of motive, and of the complex social dynamics that unfold when fame and influence collide. But there's more. Liam's role wasn't just passive observation. By virtue of his position at the event, he was also a participant in a network of power. People spoke around him, shared rumors quietly, and yet he noticed, recorded mentally, and pieced together the narrative in ways others overlooked. He recognized patterns. Gestures repeated, phrases carefully chosen, interactions that mirrored past incidents he had observed in other high-stakes environments. To the average observer, it might have seemed like a dinner. To Neeson, it was a puzzle, and each piece revealed something deeper. Here's where the story takes an emotional turn. Observing Meghan in that context wasn't just about noting social cues. It was about confronting the tension between public persona and private action. To the outside world, Meghan Markle is an icon, a symbol, someone whose image is meticulously curated. But behind the scenes, there is a human being navigating choices, consequences, and ambitions. Liam's account highlights the juxtaposition between the polished public image and the complexities of private interactions. There's humor, there's irony, and there's undeniable tension. It's a reminder that celebrities, despite their larger-than-life presence, grapple with decisions that carry immense weight. Neeson also noticed the reactions of others at the event. Some were curious, others wary. There's a psychological layer here that is crucial. The energy of the room shifted subtly when Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner interacted. Whispers circulated, but not openly. Glances were exchanged, cautious and loaded with implication. Liam, trained to read such cues both on and off screen, understood immediately that something was unfolding, something that would ripple far beyond this one night. And yet, he also observed contradictions. On the surface, everything appeared calm, controlled, and polite. But beneath that veneer were micro-expressions, pauses, and movements that betrayed calculation and strategy. There were moments where Meghan's reactions seemed rehearsed, and others where they were instinctive. Liam's ability to perceive these nuances allowed him to see a story that others would dismiss as mundane social interaction. Now, consider the stakes. Why would Meghan Markle engage in this? What could be at risk in a seemingly private, controlled environment? Liam's account hints at multiple layers: reputation, opportunity, alliances, and perhaps personal motives that intersect with professional ambitions. The encounter is emblematic of the high-stakes environment she operates within. A world where relationships are currency, influence is a weapon, and missteps are magnified exponentially. And then comes the twist, the part that makes Liam's role essential. He recounts details that no public record could capture: the specific words exchanged, the subtle body language signaling negotiation, the barely audible asides that hinted at motives beyond mere friendship. His perspective transforms what could be dismissed as a simple meeting into a story of power, calculation, and the ever-present tension between private desire and public expectation. There's also the human element. Liam, despite his detachment and professionalism, could not help but feel the emotional undertones of the encounter. There is fascination, admiration, skepticism, and a tinge of moral curiosity. Watching someone like Meghan navigate this world brings into focus the universal tension between what we do for ourselves versus what we must do to maintain an image, to cultivate relationships, or to secure influence. For Neeson, it was a reminder that no matter how polished the exterior, human motives are complex, layered, and often contradictory. And yet, even after recounting everything he saw, Liam remains cautious. He knows the power of disclosure, the danger of misinterpretation, and the responsibility that comes with insight. Sharing what he knows is not about scandal-mongering. It's about illuminating the hidden mechanisms of influence, the choices behind public personas, and the subtle strategies that shape outcomes. His perspective bridges the gap between rumor and reality, observation and interpretation, private action and public consequence. As the evening drew on, Liam noticed subtle shifts in tone, small signs that the encounter had progressed beyond initial pleasantries. Gestures became more deliberate, words more pointed, and the undercurrent of strategy became unmistakable. He realized that this was more than a casual meeting. It was a negotiation of presence, power, and perhaps perception itself. And yet, the full ramifications of the encounter would only be revealed later, through whispers, leaks, and now through Neeson's account. By the end of the night, Liam left with a clear understanding. What he had witnessed was not just an isolated incident. It was a microcosm of celebrity culture, of influence, of strategy, and a glimpse into decisions that carry consequences far beyond what meets the eye. His decision to share this story, cautiously and selectively, transformed him from passive observer to crucial narrator, giving the public a lens into an event that would otherwise remain hidden. But here's the cliffhanger. While Liam Neeson's role as observer provides context, it also raises new questions. How much did he witness directly? What remained hidden from even his careful observation? And most importantly, what was Meghan Markle's ultimate intention in meeting the Fitzpatrick owner? The answers lie ahead, in moments that are even more revealing and far more shocking than what Liam first disclosed. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Santa Barbara. The very name evokes images of sun-drenched coastlines, manicured gardens, and an elite world hidden behind wrought iron gates and velvet ropes. It is a city where the air carries both the scent of the ocean and the subtle aroma of exclusivity, where the ordinary and extraordinary intersect in ways that most people can only imagine. But beneath the picture-perfect facades lies a world of whispered deals, secret rendezvous, and influence traded in hushed tones. And it was here, in this unlikely coastal haven, that Meghan Markle allegedly stepped into a narrative that would make headlines, not immediately, but inevitably. So why Santa Barbara? Why this city, far from the spotlight of Los Angeles or the pomp of London? The answer lies in its unique position as a retreat for those who operate at the intersection of wealth, power, and discretion. It is close enough to Hollywood to attract actors, producers, and media moguls, yet removed enough to allow privacy and confidentiality. The hotels here are not just lodging. They are venues for negotiation, strategic networking, and, sometimes, clandestine encounters. The Fitzpatrick, in particular, stands as a fortress of privacy, its ownership notoriously guarded, its guest list curated to a level that borders on obsession. Liam Neeson's account places him at the heart of this environment, observing the delicate choreography that governs Santa Barbara's elite circles. The city, he noted, is a stage, and everyone plays a role. There are the visible players, the hotel staff, the concierge, the event coordinators. But then there are those operating just beneath the surface, unseen but immensely influential. It was into this layered ecosystem that Meghan entered, her every movement scrutinized by those with vested interests, her presence both anticipated and calculated. Consider the Fitzpatrick itself, a property that looks unassuming to the untrained eye, yet within its walls exist levels of control and discretion unmatched in most of the United States. The owner is known to host private dinners, invite-only receptions, and discreet gatherings that are never publicly advertised. The hotel functions not only as a place of luxury, but as a hub for influence, a crossroads where social power, financial clout, and celebrity presence converge. To step into the Fitzpatrick is to enter a microcosm of strategic interactions where every gesture carries meaning, every word is weighed, and every alliance can have ripple effects far beyond the confines of the hotel. It was precisely this environment that made the alleged meeting between Meghan and the hotel owners so consequential. Neeson describes the subtle cues that signaled the significance of the encounter. The way staff interacted, the quiet coordination behind the scenes, and the attention paid to timing and positioning all indicated that this was more than a casual visit. Even the layout of the hotel, a series of private rooms and secluded corners, seemed designed to facilitate discreet interaction, allowing conversations to occur away from prying eyes while still within a controlled, observable space. To understand the full gravity of the situation, it's important to grasp the psychological environment of Santa Barbara's elite. Here, reputation is currency, discretion is valued above all, and appearances are meticulously managed. Guests and participants alike navigate a complex web of social dynamics where missteps can lead to instant rumor and where silence is often more powerful than speech. Meghan, entering this world, was not merely a visitor. She was a participant in a delicate dance where observation and strategy are as critical as charm and presentation. Neeson's observations extend beyond the superficial. He noticed the choreography of human behavior, the way Meghan engaged with the hotel staff, the subtle acknowledgement of the owner, and the delicate balance of approachability and control in her demeanor. Each movement, each glance, each brief conversation was part of a larger narrative that he, with decades of experience in reading people, could decode. The interactions were layered with implication, a nod here, a pause there, and an occasional smile that seemed to convey both intent and restraint. And yet, there is also irony in the setting. Santa Barbara, with its idyllic beaches and seemingly tranquil environment, becomes a stage for high-stakes drama. The city's serene aesthetic contrasts sharply with the tension, strategy, and potential consequences unfolding behind closed doors. Neeson points out that this contrast is part of what makes such encounters so fascinating, and why the story, once revealed, resonates so strongly with the public. There's a certain paradox in luxury settings. They promise peace and escape, yet often harbor the most intense negotiations and human machinations. The narrative deepens when considering the history of high-profile meetings in Santa Barbara. Over the years, it has been the backdrop for countless encounters that later took on outsized significance in Hollywood and political circles. Celebrities, moguls, and public figures use the city's private spaces to explore alliances, settle disputes, or, in some cases, negotiate personal arrangements away from public scrutiny. The setting itself encourages discretion, fostering an environment where the stakes of any interaction are amplified by both the exclusivity of the location and the social weight of the participants. In this context, the alleged meeting between Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner gains clarity. Neeson observed not just two people interacting, but the interplay of influence, ambition, and opportunity within a microcosm of power. There were signals that went beyond conversation. The way seating was arranged, the timing of arrivals and departures, and the subtle orchestration of the environment itself. It became evident that every aspect of the encounter had been considered, either by design or instinct. There is also a human element to this environment that Neeson highlights. Santa Barbara, with its beauty and charm, has a way of lowering guards while simultaneously amplifying perception. People behave differently when they believe themselves to be in a private, secure space. Meghan, aware of the optics yet confident in her agency, reportedly navigated these dynamics with precision. Neeson's account underscores that she was not passive. She was an active participant in a social and strategic environment, reading cues, managing impressions, and responding to the subtle shifts around her. And then, there is the broader implication of the city's role in celebrity culture. Santa Barbara is not just a backdrop, it is a character in its own right. The city's architecture, geography, and social infrastructure all contribute to the unfolding drama. It offers escape from prying eyes, yet its very exclusivity makes every interaction a potential point of intrigue. Neeson's insights suggest that understanding the city's social dynamics is essential to understanding why this meeting mattered and why its ramifications extend far beyond the walls of the Fitzpatrick. The story gains further tension when we consider timing. The alleged meeting did not occur in isolation. It took place at a moment when Meghan's public profile was already under intense scrutiny. Every action she took was likely being analyzed, whether consciously or unconsciously, by an audience attuned to the minutiae of celebrity life. In such an environment, even a private encounter carries amplified meaning. Neeson's account captures the subtle interplay of timing, perception, and strategy, offering a glimpse into a world where every choice is loaded with consequence. Yet, despite the drama and the high stakes, there is a human relatability in the scenario. Neeson observes the interactions not just as a matter of social maneuvering, but as a reflection of human behavior under pressure. Desire, curiosity, ambition, and caution intermingle in ways that are both recognizable and extraordinary. The narrative is compelling because it is not purely about wealth or status. It is about people navigating choices, risks, and opportunities within a setting that magnifies every nuance. Finally, the Santa Barbara setting introduces a sense of inevitability. Once Meghan entered this environment, once she engaged with the Fitzpatrick owner, the trajectory of the encounter was set. What followed was shaped not only by individual actions, but by the social and spatial dynamics of the city itself. Liam Neeson's observations provide the connective tissue between place, person, and consequence, illuminating how a single night in Santa Barbara could ripple outward into rumors, speculation, and scandal. But the story is far from over. While the city and the hotel provide the stage, the characters bring complexity, motive, and intrigue. And as we move deeper into this narrative, the focus shifts from place to person. Who is the Fitzpatrick owner? And why does his connection to Meghan Markle matter so profoundly? What is it about this man, and about Meghan's engagement with him, that warrants scrutiny, speculation, and ultimately, revelation? What comes next is where the private world collides with the public imagination, and where the story begins to take a turn that no one anticipated. But what happened inside that hotel would shock even those familiar with celebrity secrets. And the consequences would echo far beyond Santa Barbara. To fully understand the drama unfolding in Santa Barbara, we need to focus on the other central figure in this story, the Fitzpatrick owner. A man shrouded in discretion, influence, and whispers of both power and intrigue. He is the kind of person who exists at the intersections of wealth, ambition, and secrecy. Few know him personally, fewer still understand the extent of his reach, and yet, according to Liam Neeson's account, his presence in that hotel room on that night was catalytic, setting into motion events that would reverberate far beyond the polished walls of the Fitzpatrick. Who is this man? For those outside elite social circles, he might seem like just another wealthy entrepreneur, someone whose name occasionally surfaces in society pages or high-end business magazines. But the reality is far more complex. The Fitzpatrick owner is known for cultivating relationships in a calculated way, aligning himself with celebrities, industry moguls, and powerful figures with a precision that is both admired and feared. There is an air of strategy in everything he does. Nothing about his social movements is casual. Every interaction is deliberate. Every gesture is layered with potential meaning. Liam Neeson observed this closely. From the moment Meghan Markle entered the room, the Fitzpatrick owner exuded a quiet command of his environment. He was not flashy, not overtly dramatic. There were no grand entrances or ostentatious displays of wealth. Instead, there was poise, control, and a subtle sense of authority that seemed to influence the entire room without a single word. It's the kind of presence that makes others adjust their behavior unconsciously. The mark of someone who understands the dynamics of influence at an almost instinctual level. Consider the man's history, as much as it can be traced publicly. He built his empire quietly, moving strategically in industries that often intersect with Hollywood, high finance, and elite hospitality. By design, he has cultivated a reputation for discretion, valuing privacy above all else. This makes him a compelling figure for someone like Meghan Markle, who herself navigates the treacherous terrain of fame and public scrutiny. When two people operating in such calculated spheres meet, the encounter becomes a chess game, a careful negotiation of perception, intention, and opportunity. But it's not just about wealth or influence. There's an emotional intelligence at play, a kind of social acuity that allows him to read people with precision. Liam Neeson's recounting suggests that the Fitzpatrick owner didn't just notice Meghan's presence. He understood it, anticipated it, and responded in ways that were almost imperceptible to outsiders, but loaded with subtext. Every nod, every pause, every casual remark carried weight. To an observer trained to read human behavior, these were signals of strategy, subtle testing, and mutual assessment. And yet, there's an inherent irony here. The Fitzpatrick owner, a man whose life is characterized by control and discretion, became part of a story that would leak into the public imagination. This illustrates one of the essential contradictions of influence. The more one navigates spaces of power, the more vulnerable one becomes to narrative, speculation, and rumor. Liam Neeson recognized this instantly. The very qualities that made the Fitzpatrick owner formidable in private circles, his discretion, his subtle command of interaction, also made the unfolding encounter extraordinarily compelling to an outside observer. Another dimension of the Fitzpatrick owner's persona lies in his relationships with the people around him. He is known to be selective, cultivating networks carefully. People don't simply gain access to him. They are assessed, their motives considered, their intentions measured. This selective engagement gives him leverage in social interactions, allowing him to shape encounters without overt force. Liam Neeson noticed this as he watched Meghan enter the room, not as an intruder, but as a participant in a carefully orchestrated social environment. There is also the question of reputation. In elite circles, perception is everything. To be perceived as approachable, charming, or strategic is as important as actual power. The Fitzpatrick owner has mastered this balance, presenting warmth when needed, reserve when advantageous, and authority when essential. His interactions with Meghan were subtle, precise, and deliberate, a combination of hospitality, observation, and strategy. Liam Neeson's account emphasizes that these qualities are not just social polish but tools, deployed with the precision of someone who understands that influence is often exercised in silence rather than spectacle. Yet, even with all this preparation and social awareness, the encounter carried an element of unpredictability. Meghan Markle is herself highly strategic, socially aware, and accustomed to navigating high-stakes environments. When two people who operate with such calculated precision meet, the resulting interaction is layered with potential outcomes, each as compelling as the next. Neeson notes the subtle push and pull, the conversational ebb and flow, the moments when glances and gestures spoke louder than words. This interplay created a tension in the room that could be felt even by those not directly involved, a tension that would later fuel speculation, rumor, and analysis. But the story becomes even more fascinating when considering the underlying implications of the meeting. It's not just a matter of social curiosity. It's about influence, ambition, and perhaps even strategy that intersects with personal motives. Liam Neeson's observations suggest that the Fitzpatrick owner's interest in Meghan Markle was multifaceted, social, strategic, and, possibly, transactional. The layers of interpretation here are rich because they touch upon issues of power, trust, and the subtle negotiations that occur in spaces where discretion is prized and consequences are high. There's also the dynamic of control. The Fitzpatrick owner, while subtle, maintained a quiet command over the interaction. He was patient, deliberate, and observant, allowing Meghan to reveal her intentions without overt pressure, while simultaneously guiding the conversation in ways that were almost imperceptible. This creates a fascinating interplay between autonomy and influence. How two highly aware, highly strategic individuals navigate a situation where both possess agency, yet each is attuned to the implications of every word, gesture, and glance. And then there's the broader societal context. Figures like the Fitzpatrick owner operate in a world where public perception and private behavior intersect constantly. Meetings that seem trivial to outsiders can carry immense significance behind closed doors. Liam Neeson's insight illuminates this dynamic, showing how one encounter in Santa Barbara, seemingly minor, could have ramifications that extend far beyond the hotel walls, touching on reputation, alliances, and the subtle power plays that define elite social networks. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Fitzpatrick owner is the way he manages perception. According to Neeson, there was nothing overtly scandalous in his behavior during the meeting. No dramatic gestures, no obvious power plays. Yet, the very presence of Meghan Markle and his company, combined with the exclusive setting, created a narrative potential that was impossible to ignore. In elite circles, context is everything, and Neeson's account highlights how perception and reality often intertwine in ways that are subtle yet explosive. This chapter of the story sets the stage for deeper revelations. Understanding who the Fitzpatrick owner is and how he operates sheds light on why this meeting mattered, why it attracted attention, and why Liam Neeson's account is so valuable. The encounter was not just a social interaction. It was a window into a world where influence, strategy, and personal motives intersect in unpredictable ways. But as we will see in the next chapter, the intrigue does not end with introductions and social maneuvering. The dynamics of this meeting take a more dramatic turn when the question of alleged arrangements and motivations comes into play, when whispers of sugar baby arrangements, personal gain, and calculated social strategy begin to surface. What came next would blur the line between public persona and private strategy, and the consequences would leave both Meghan Markle and the Fitzpatrick owner at the center of a narrative that no one could have anticipated. The phrase sugar baby has become a cultural shorthand, often whispered with judgment, amusement, or scandal. Yet in this story, it carries a weight far beyond mere gossip. According to multiple sources, including Liam Neeson's account, Meghan Markle's alleged connection to the Fitzpatrick owner takes on undertones that cannot be ignored, a narrative that intertwines wealth, influence, and social strategy in ways that are both shocking and deeply human. To understand the gravity of this allegation, it's necessary to explore what it implies. A sugar baby relationship, in its purest form, is transactional. An exchange of companionship, intimacy, or social advantage for financial or material benefit. In the context of Hollywood and elite social circles, such arrangements are rarely as clear-cut as tabloids suggest. They are wrapped in subtlety, discretion, and a web of mutual benefit. Liam Neeson's perspective is crucial here because he observed nuances that outsiders cannot see. The timing of interactions, the choice of venue, the deliberate gestures, and the patterns of attention. All of these pointed to an encounter layered with possible intent, strategic calculation, and social leverage. Imagine for a moment the Fitzpatrick Hotel as a stage. Every meeting, every handshake, every exchange smile is amplified by context. In this scenario, the notion of a sugar baby arrangement becomes less about overt transactional behavior and more about the subtle interplay of influence, power, and opportunity. Meghan Markle's presence in the hotel, her interaction with the owner, and the environment itself created a situation rife with interpretation, where even a casual compliment or a shared glance could be loaded with implication. Liam Neeson, with decades of experience reading human behavior, noted several moments that hinted at this layered dynamic. For example, the way Meghan's attention seemed attuned to the owner's responses, the deliberate pauses in conversation, and the subtle mirroring of posture all suggested a conscious negotiation of presence and perception. These are behaviors often associated with high-stakes social interaction, where both parties are aware of the stakes and the potential benefits. To an outside observer, such details might seem trivial, but to someone trained to observe human interaction, they are signals, micro-clues that reveal intention, interest, and strategy. But let's be clear, the allegation is complex. Being labeled a sugar baby carries connotations of manipulation, dependency, or opportunism, yet Liam's recounting complicates the narrative. He emphasizes that Meghan was not simply a passive participant in this scenario. She exhibited agency, awareness, and strategic acumen throughout the interaction. The supposed transaction was not one-sided. It was a dynamic exchange where both parties navigated control, perception, and social positioning. This distinction is critical. What outsiders might frame as scandalous could, in context, be an exercise of calculated social intelligence, an ability to leverage opportunity without sacrificing personal agency. There's also the emotional dimension to consider. Engaging in such an arrangement, whether real or perceived, carries significant personal risk. Reputation, privacy, and public perception are all at stake. For Meghan Markle, whose every move has been scrutinized by media and public alike, the decision to meet the Fitzpatrick owner in a private context was fraught with potential consequences. Liam Neeson observed these stakes in real time. The careful attention to body language, the micro-expressions of concern or calculation, and the conscious navigation of social optics. Irony and contradiction weave through this narrative as well. Meghan, a woman celebrated for independence, intelligence, and social awareness, is rumored to have engaged in a dynamic often associated with dependency or transactional behavior. Yet Neeson's account reveals a different picture, one of mutual strategy, careful observation, and deliberate action. The allegation of being a sugar baby, therefore, becomes a lens to examine broader themes of power, negotiation, and human behavior within elite contexts. Moreover, there's a historical precedent for such dynamics in Hollywood and high society. Relationships that mix personal connection with strategic benefit are not new. They are embedded in the culture of celebrity and influence. What makes this scenario compelling is the specificity of the setting, the individuals involved, and the subtle choreography observed by someone as perceptive as Liam Neeson. The story is not merely salacious. It's a study in the intersection of reputation, desire, and social intelligence. One key moment Liam noted during the evening involved the exchange of attention. Meghan reportedly demonstrated an awareness of how to engage the Fitzpatrick owner in a way that balanced charm, authority, and subtle negotiation. The gestures were small, a shift in seating, a pause before responding, a carefully measured smile, but they conveyed volumes. In the context of a potential sugar baby arrangement, these actions take on additional significance. They suggest a deliberate navigation of influence rather than a passive or naive engagement. Yet, even as these subtleties played out, external observers were already starting to speculate. Rumors circulated about the nature of the relationship, fueled by the environment, the exclusivity of the meeting, and the patterns of interaction. Social media, tabloids, and gossip networks began to construct narratives, some of which leaned heavily on the sugar baby angle. Liam Neeson's recounting helps differentiate between perception and observed behavior. He emphasizes that while the implications were present, the actions themselves were nuanced, strategic, and contextually rich. Another layer to consider is the response of those around them. Staff, other guests, and peripheral observers all contribute to the energy of the room. In private, these dynamics are nearly invisible to the public, yet they can influence behavior profoundly. The Fitzpatrick owner, aware of scrutiny even within a controlled environment, reportedly managed the interaction with finesse, balancing openness with discretion. Meghan, in turn, navigated these dynamics with awareness, ensuring that her presence was both influential and strategically positioned. This brings us to an essential tension, the gap between public narrative and private reality. The sugar baby allegation, when stripped to its simplest form, is sensational. Yet Liam Neeson's observations reveal a far more intricate story. What might appear transactional in headlines is, in context, an interplay of influence, perception, and mutual assessment. The story challenges assumptions about agency, intent, and the nature of high-profile social interactions. It reminds viewers that reality is rarely binary, and that perception can both reveal and distort intention. Emotionally, the scenario is intense. Engaging in an arrangement that could be interpreted as a sugar baby dynamic exposes individuals to judgment, rumor, and speculation. For Meghan, the stakes were amplified by her public visibility. For the Fitzpatrick owner, discretion and control were paramount. Liam Neeson's recounting captures the tension, the anticipation, and the subtle signals that illustrate the high stakes of the encounter. Every pause, every glance, every measured word carried potential consequences, both socially and personally. And yet, there is a paradox. The very qualities that made this meeting high stakes, discretion, subtlety, and strategic positioning, also created fertile ground for rumor. Outsiders could interpret almost anything as evidence of transactional behavior, because the signals themselves are so nuanced and layered. Liam Neeson's role, then, becomes critical. His observations bridge the gap between perception and reality, revealing a story that is far richer and more complex than gossip alone could convey. By the end of the evening, according to Neeson, the interaction had reached a subtle climax, not in drama or confrontation, but in the quiet acknowledgement of mutual understanding. There were no overt declarations, no public gestures, no dramatic scenes, just a carefully choreographed exchange that spoke volumes to those attuned to its subtleties. And therein lies the fascination of the alleged sugar baby scandal. It is not a story of overt transactions, but of strategy, perception, and influence, observed in a context where every action carries amplified significance. As we move forward, it's important to remember that this is just one layer of a multifaceted story. The alleged sugar baby aspect introduces tension, speculation, and moral questions. But it is intertwined with broader narratives about celebrity, reputation, and human behavior. Liam Neeson's account provides clarity, yet it also deepens the mystery. What was the ultimate purpose of the meeting, and how did it influence subsequent events? But what came next would complicate everything further, drawing in secrets, alliances, and unexpected consequences that no one, including Liam, could have predicted. It's one thing to hear a rumor, another to read it in a tabloid, and yet another entirely to witness the unfolding of a story firsthand. Liam Neeson found himself in the rare position of being a direct observer of events that would later dominate whispers and speculation. Meghan Markle's alleged Santa Barbara rendezvous with the Fitzpatrick owner. But how did he even find out? How did the pieces fall into place for someone of his experience, discretion, and insight to witness an encounter that would remain hidden from the public for weeks or longer? The answer lies in a mix of circumstance, timing, and Liam's own uncanny ability to read people and places. It began with an invitation. Liam had been asked to attend a private dinner in Santa Barbara. Not as a reporter, not as a gossip collector, but as a respected guest whose presence lent credibility and balance to the event. The dinner itself was shrouded in exclusivity, an intimate gathering of high-profile figures who valued discretion above all else. As Neeson arrived, he noticed the subtle cues that marked a space where every detail was calculated. The arrangement of tables, the positioning of chairs, the rhythm of staff movements, and the quiet awareness that this was not an ordinary social gathering. And yet, the extraordinary often hides in plain sight. Meghan Markle arrived not with fanfare, but with the same poise and strategy that she has cultivated throughout her career. She was conscious of her surroundings, aware of every eye, every whisper, every glance. Liam, by virtue of being there, found himself in a position to notice what others might miss. While casual observers would see a simple interaction, Neeson observed nuance. The way Meghan navigated the room, how she engaged selectively, and how she subtly signaled awareness and control. Neeson recalls noticing the first hint that this was not a casual encounter. It wasn't in the conversation itself, nor in the greetings exchanged. It was in the pauses. Those quiet, loaded moments where body language and timing spoke louder than words. Meghan's attention, her gestures, and the way she positioned herself in relation to the Fitzpatrick owner all suggested intentionality. She was testing boundaries, gauging reactions, and communicating without uttering a single overtly revealing statement. Liam recognized immediately that these cues were more than social niceties. They were part of a subtle negotiation of perception and influence. But how did Liam verify the significance of what he was observing? This is where his experience in reading human behavior became invaluable. He had spent decades analyzing subtle cues in professional and personal contexts, on film sets, in interviews, and in real-world interactions. He noticed microexpressions, timing, voice inflections, and spatial positioning that told a story beyond spoken words. These are the elements of human behavior that many overlook, but they are crucial in understanding intent, strategy, and social dynamics. In this instance, they revealed layers of calculation and awareness in both Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner. There was also an element of chance. Liam's position at the dinner allowed him to overhear fragments of conversation, snippets that confirmed the significance of the meeting. Unlike a journalist or a gossip columnist, he wasn't recording for publication. He was observing, absorbing, and interpreting. But those small insights, an aside here, a quiet comment there, painted a larger picture. He could see the interplay of influence, the subtle negotiation of roles, and the intricate dance of social power. Each detail, though seemingly minor, contributed to a comprehensive understanding of what was really happening. It's important to note that this was not a one-sided observation. Liam was acutely aware that Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner were themselves calculating. Both understood the optics of the environment and the importance of discretion. Yet, even in their strategic awareness, they revealed subtle signals of intention and engagement. Liam's expertise allowed him to decode these signals, understanding that the small gestures, the careful tilts of the head, the pauses before responding, the mirroring of posture, were all indicators of deeper dynamics. Another factor was Liam's credibility. Unlike casual observers, he could distinguish between rumor and observed reality. His position as a respected actor, known for both professionalism and discretion, allowed him access and the ability to witness events without altering them. He was an observer who did not disrupt the flow of interaction, yet whose presence ensured that key details were not lost. This combination of proximity, insight, and perception is what makes his account uniquely valuable. Neeson also noted the environment itself. The hotel, with its quiet sophistication and carefully controlled spaces, provided a backdrop that amplified the significance of interactions. Every movement, every gesture, every exchange of attention carried meaning within the context of the setting. The Fitzpatrick owner had intentionally created a space that facilitated discretion while subtly highlighting influence. Meghan, in turn, navigated this environment with awareness and strategy, making each interaction a potential statement of intention, presence, or negotiation. Then there was the timing. The dinner occurred at a moment when Meghan's public image was already under intense scrutiny. Every word, every gesture, and every connection could, and would, be interpreted in multiple ways. Liam's position allowed him to see the interplay of timing and context, how conversations flowed, how attention was allocated, and how strategic pauses influenced perception. He observed the subtle ways in which Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner navigated both the social and symbolic significance of the meeting. Liam also recounts the reactions of others. Staff, peripheral guests, and even subtle glances from nearby tables contributed to the energy in the room. These reactions, though often unnoticed by casual observers, create feedback loops that shape interaction. Meghan and the Fitzpatrick owner responded to these micro-reactions, adjusting posture, tone, and engagement to maintain control while projecting confidence and influence. Liam's ability to decode these nuances offers an unprecedented window into the mechanics of the meeting. What makes Liam's account particularly compelling is his ability to connect observation with inference. He did not simply describe what he saw. He interpreted meaning, intention, and consequence. For example, when Meghan adjusted her seating to mirror the Fitzpatrick owner's posture, Liam recognized it as a subtle signal of rapport, a way of establishing mutual awareness and positioning. When she paused before answering certain questions, he interpreted it as strategic, weighing both perception and consequence. These interpretations reveal a layered narrative that extends beyond the surface interaction into the realm of calculated human behavior. And yet, even with all his insight, Liam was cautious. He knew that perception can be misleading and that public interpretation often diverges from observed reality. He emphasizes that while the meeting carries undertones that invite speculation, the interactions themselves were nuanced, deliberate, and complex. This is a story of observation, not accusation, a narrative where context, perception, and strategy converge in ways that only someone with his experience could fully decode. As the evening progressed, Liam began to piece together the broader significance of what he was witnessing. This was not a mere social call, nor a casual networking opportunity. It was a carefully calibrated interaction where influence, perception, and strategy intersected. The implications were far-reaching, touching on reputation, potential alliances, and perhaps even arrangements that could be interpreted in multiple ways, ranging from strategic partnership to alleged sugar baby dynamics. By the end of the night, Liam Neeson had more than just a casual observation. He had a comprehensive understanding of a high-stakes encounter. He saw intent where others saw politeness, strategy where others saw conversation, and subtle negotiation where others saw simple social interaction. This was the point at which rumor transforms into insight, a perspective grounded in observation, experience, and an understanding of human behavior at its most strategic. But as insightful as Liam's observations were, the story was far from complete. What he witnessed was only the beginning. The subtle cues, the glances, the calculated gestures, all of it foreshadowed revelations that would unfold later, revealing motivations, implications, and outcomes that no one could have predicted. What came next would not just confirm speculation. It would ignite new questions, challenge assumptions, and push the story into even more uncharted territory. The walls of the Fitzpatrick Hotel have seen countless high-profile interactions over the years, but few could match the subtle tension, intrigue, and anticipation of the night Meghan Markle allegedly met with its owner. For Liam Neeson, the evening was more than just a spectacle of celebrity socializing. It was a masterclass in observation, human behavior, and the intricate dance of influence and perception. But now, for the first time, the meeting itself. The details, the environment, and the nuances of the interaction can be revealed in a way that paints the full picture. The scene begins in a private, dimly lit room on the upper floor of the Fitzpatrick. Soft chandeliers cast warm shadows across polished mahogany furniture, the air tinged with the scent of luxury perfumes and subtle floral arrangements. The setting was deliberately chosen to create intimacy without compromising discretion, a space where private conversations could unfold while maintaining an aura of elegance. Liam Neeson, present but unobtrusive, observed the choreography of social interaction from a corner vantage point, taking in every subtle gesture, glance, and movement. Meghan arrived with measured composure. Her entrance was unassuming yet precise, a combination of social awareness and strategic presence. She carried herself with confidence, aware of the environment and of the significance of the meeting. Liam noted immediately how she adjusted her posture, subtly signaling openness while maintaining control. Every movement was deliberate, the tilt of her head, the positioning of her hands, the way she surveyed the room before making her approach. These were cues not lost on the Fitzpatrick owner, whose own demeanor reflected calm authority and subtle engagement. The owner greeted her with a quiet nod, an understated acknowledgement that set the tone for the interaction. There were no grandiose gestures, no overt displays of status, just a measured recognition of presence and a subtle invitation to engage. Liam noted the importance of this moment. The greeting itself established mutual awareness, setting the stage for a meeting where nuance and intention carried far more weight than words alone. Conversation began with polite pleasantries. Small talk about the city, the hotel, and mutual acquaintances, but within moments, the dialogue shifted. Liam observed how Meghan carefully navigated this transition. Her responses were strategic, attentive, concise, and purposeful, signaling intelligence, confidence, and awareness. She asked questions that revealed curiosity without overstepping boundaries, while also offering insights that hinted at experience, capability, and discretion. This was not a casual exchange. It was an intricate dance of information, influence, and observation. The Fitzpatrick owner, for his part, maintained a subtle balance of authority and attentiveness. His responses were measured, deliberate, and occasionally probing, testing boundaries without overt pressure. Liam described the dynamic as a silent negotiation, where every word, pause, and gesture was assessed for meaning. For an outside observer, the interaction might appear ordinary. But Liam's experience allowed him to detect layers of complexity, strategic intention, and subtle communication that few could recognize. As the conversation continued, Liam noticed micro-expressions and body language that hinted at deeper undercurrents. Meghan occasionally mirrored the owner's posture, a subtle signal of rapport, while also maintaining independent gestures that asserted her presence and agency. Small pauses were not idle. They were reflective, calculated moments that allowed her to assess responses, anticipate reactions, and adjust her approach. The Fitzpatrick owner responded in kind, acknowledging the subtleties while preserving control of the narrative and space. A critical component of the meeting, according to Neeson, was the environment itself. The layout of the room, the seating arrangement, and the lighting all contributed to the interaction's dynamic. Meghan's positioning allowed her to maintain visual access to the owner while signaling openness to dialogue. The owner's positioning reinforced his authority and facilitated subtle cues to guide the conversation. Even the staff's discreet presence in the periphery contributed to the tone, attentive but invisible, ensuring comfort while preserving privacy.